everyone, and welcome to Creative Edge Writers Showcase. I'm your host, Christie Stratos, author of Anatomy of a Darkened Heart and Lock and Key, and owner of my editing company at proofpositivepro.com. This show is part of the Authors on the Air Global Radio Network. Our guest tonight is chick lit romantic comedy author Miranda O. Thanks for being here, Miranda.
Hey, thank you for having me. Like that's the big thank you. I just get to come here and chit chat about life. So
I always love talking to you. You're so much fun.
well, likewise, I always love coming back because it's such a dynamic duo in my mind. We vibe well. So
Definitely. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you write.
yeah, for sure. I am the author of the Chin Up Tits Out series. We call it chicklet. We call it humor. It's a little bit of everything, dripped in a glass of wine or whatever poison is your choice. Now, the series is a 3-book series. 2 of them are released. Chin Up Tits Out is the life motto. And book 3 is partially loading right now, which means there's kind of some wine being consumed with writing, which is leading to a beautiful beginning to the summer.
Perfect. That's great. We're definitely going to talk about that third book later because there's some special stuff going on around it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exciting. So it is chicklet and romance, romantic humor, romantic comedy, anything you want to call it. Do you think that it's sort of similar to watching a romantic comedy?
Yeah, let's call it with a pretty dramatic twist to it. There's going to be a dramatic twist to it because I like to call my books a real. It's fiction, but they are real, because there's real aspects to it. And I think the reason why I wanted to do that was I wanted to resonate with people and connect with people from a dramatic point of view. Because when life is dramatic, which, let's be honest, it's all the dang time. It's nice to kind of connect with somebody and know, oh, that person kind of knows. So I'm not the only person out there that's feeling a little bit this way, right? So I'm excited. It's really cool, and it's all about reels.
Definitely. And I also think that one of the things that's so great about romantic comedy and chicklet is when you read about some of this really like horrific stuff that happens to someone and there's some humorous twist put on it, it can make it feel not such a big deal when something awful happens to you yourself. Do you strive to sort of make people feel okay about those awkward moments and cringy moments in real life?
Oh, you know what? Funny that you should say that. My neighbor was down here, as you can see in the background. I live in a condo. My neighbor was down here, and we were sipping wine the other day, and I was telling her a little bit about Hadley, our main character, and Chin Up Tits Out, the main character's story, which has little dabbles of my past and other people's past in my life, kind of dabbled into the story. And she was like, "Ugh." And I thought that my condo renters were driving me crazy. And she's like, I ain't got nothing on that story. So I'm just going to sip this wine and I'm going to be happy in my own life. I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I want, is people to go, okay, life is sucky sometimes, but it's not that bad. There's always a silver lining to every crappy situation. It's just up to us to get out of our own and get out of our own way in order to figure out what that silver lining is and embrace that silver lining, hold on to it and grasp it if it's the case, right? Just that little glimpse of hope or the light at the end of the or the tunnels, stick it and hold on to it and don't let it go. And that's what I'm all about. Hopefully that's what my attempt is anyways.
Absolutely. And even in your social media, whether it's on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, you have a lot of positivity, you have a lot of motivation and encouragement. So really, it's not just your books, it's actually just who you are, which is so fantastic. And if anybody here is not following Miranda right now, you really should, because she puts up some seriously motivational stuff. Did you set out for that to be what you have on Instagram and places like that? Or is that's just naturally the way it is for you?
I'm gonna say it's more so natural. There was a time where I was trying to force things out, and it wasn't as smooth as it needed, as it naturally was. So I peter back and I watch myself, but it's really unfolded into that, where I connect with like-minded people around the world, to learn off of them, and such a hipster word, but vibe off of them, right? And you catch those little phrases or those positive mentalities or those light bulb moments. And so when I'm busy doing this and projecting who I am and sharing the idealism or the model chin up, tits out, I'm also attracting a bunch of people that need that, right? That are striving to find that and connect from it. And with that group of people, I also learn as well, because you only know your darkest, deepest rock bottom. But when you get to learn about others, you really start to think that, hey, my darkest, deepest rock bottom wasn't that bad, actually. So it's, you strive to connect with positive people, and then people that are trying to be more positive connect to you, because it's this intergiving forever little infinity circle thing that keeps going around. And that's just the universe working its magic, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the first book, I know they both have chin up, tits out on them. But I think in the first book, in the beginning, I believe the main character says that that is actually a motto her mother had said. And I wondered if that was real, if your mother said that.
Yes, my mother has credit for that, and she's waiting for the dedication for that in one of my books. My mother is not only the creator of that little motto, but she is my first round of editor, because I swear to God, if it wasn't for that woman, my head would be in one continent and my body parts would be scattered all over. Like, she keeps me, I'm my own person. She just keeps me in check with where I want to go. And when I say half a sentence, she can finish it usually for me, especially when I write. When I write, it's just like, duh, you get it all out, but there's like 17 half thoughts in a paragraph. And for people who don't know me or don't know the story that I'm trying to write, they read this and they're like, oh my God, I knew this girl was crazy. Cause let's be honest, like, but she's this crazy, it's so she has to be my first round of editor. Thank God, because I come back and it's so much more put together. Yes, mom. But yeah, chin up, tits out was totally a mom thing. And I mean, it wasn't always chin up, tits out. It started off as like chin up, shoulders back, chest out. And then, if you want to get all like yogi-esque, like, shine through your heart center and chin up or shoulder, there's so many ways you can go about how you say that motto. It's the same as fake it till you make it. It's just said in a different way, right? And everybody has that little motto that tricks with them and stays with them.
Yeah.
Depends on who we are.
Definitely. So it seems like some parts, at least some parts, are autobiographical. Would you say that both books are pretty autobiographical? Only one, sort of mostly made up, or heavily autobiographical? What would you say?
um Well, I would say that the basis of the story is about kind of my 20s, let's call it, or young adulthood. 20s. We're trying to figure our things out. And I pretty much stumble through life backside over face, not really knowing what's what, but knowing what's what, and always been kind of driven in a sense, but legitimately find myself in these most interesting situations. And my life is puny compared to big ones out there. And I know that big lives tend to attract big crowds, but this is a big story. And it took 10 years to accumulate, and a lot of hard work and a lot of love and a lot of beautifulness and a lot of ugliness, a lot of wine. A lot of wine. And
Important.
important, life is difficult enough, and sometimes you just like, it's the drink of the gods, man. It came from somewhere for a reason, and we just gotta, you know relish in it, just enjoy it where when we get the opportunity to. And when I got the opportunity to, I started writing and I put it down. And book one, I would say, is a little bit more fiction than anything, just because it was such a long time, within like a 5-year span, I think. Um, and that part of the story is kind of, it's only big for a couple weeks of the year. So how do you write a good book that has like 2 weeks out of 52 that it's going to take you through a story, right? Like, what about all the extra stuff? Um, so with that, I'm going to have to thank my people, my village, because their stories, their situations that they got into, were interjected into the book as well, which I love, because it's not necessarily you're reading about Hadley, but Hadley's um, a compile of people. She has traits of me. She has traits of my closest friends. She has traits of family members that, I couldn't necessarily write them into the book to make it make sense, but I could write their traits that are close to me and kind of create this person that I think, as women, we all try to strive to be, in loving fearlessly, being confident with who we are, and loving ourselves. And when I mean loving fearlessly, I not only encompass loving ourselves, but loving other people in different capacities. The love, I could be completely in love with my mom and my dad, but that in love is going to be different than the in love that I would feel with my partner, or the in love that I would feel for my dog, whose first birthday is today. Anyways, sorry, dog mom, yay. Uh, um, so it's, we all strive to do that. We're in our young adulthood, we're trying to strive to figure out whether what we want to do with our lives, and we want to do it with poise and composure and grace, all while looking fabulous, as well as getting used to being an adult and having access to wine and a little bit more of a disposable income, and going out and feasting on lavish food and events with your friends, right? And then trying to keep a bod of a Hollywood star. Like, there's so much piled on us as women, and it should be the wildest, funnest, most confident time of our lives, or our whole life should be that way. Whether we're 10 to 18 or 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 50 to 60, each and every one of those decades relates to having some sort of wonderful thing and happen, change within those periods of time. There's a boatload of other things that can happen, like if you laugh too much, or you cough, or you jump, you might pee yourself. Like, that happens. Menopause happens. Like, all this stuff happens with women, and that's what we focus on. That's what the commercials tell us on TV. It's like, hey, take this pill for this, and this gel for that, and you're take this, workout for this. But I'm like, I'm gonna work out, I'm gonna have my booty, but I'm also gonna enjoy eating my chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream every now and then. Like, you just have to embrace the changes and the amazingness that women have. And I think that Hadley tries to do that in the most positive way, through the most ridiculous situations that constantly keep pushing her, down into the ground. She just keeps kind of emerging through the ashes.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's more of that positivity that I so enjoy seeing on your social media too. I did notice, actually, you're talking about like fabulousness and everything along those wonderful lines, that is so much fun, but also a struggle sometimes. And I did notice that in your reviews, there was at least one person, at least one, who compared your books to Sex and the City. And so I wondered if this is sort of like a coming of age Sex and the City, or if that comparison was intentional, if that's something that you're happy about.
I think any female writer that writes about women's lives and love and careers and fashion, is completely honored to be, even remotely put in the same category as Sex and the City. Like, I grew up watching those girls, and like each and every one of those actresses, their characters, I could pick and choose, like, oh, I'm a little bit of this with Carrie and I'm a little bit of this with Miranda, and like all of them, right? Um, and so you kind of compile, and that's kind of the fun part that I did with my writing, was I compiled the traits from the people that I know, and the diversity of the people that I know, and my friends, and it's just, I had so much fun writing about that, because then when you do that, and you find a way to write it through a positive way through crappy situations, you're connecting people that aren't alike in minds, right? They're not alike in situations. What they're alike in is an internal feeling, so I have geologists or yeah, no, it's not, she's a scientist in South Africa. um I have people in the oil, like males in the oil rigs in Western Canada. I have Mexican accountants, they, I have people from all over the world that have read my book, that come from different backgrounds, different races, different religions, different work situations, different types of families, and their response, their feelings towards the book are all the same, and the feelings towards the message are all the same. And that's what I really want. That's I didn't really want that to happen. I didn't set out for it to happen. I just wanted to write my story and be funny about it because it sucked. So I wanted a reason to laugh about it. It just happened to turn into this cool thing. And then I started to realize all the benefits that it was doing for me and my mentality and my life, on just connecting with people that on a feeling basis, on an emotional level, versus a situation or a background or a race or a religion, is how do we feel, and it was making huge changes in my life through this whole process did. And so that's kind of what I built, and it's kind of growing and growing. And
That's always good. That's
right,
really good.
right.
Yeah, and in this time, I would say that we're living in a time where jobs are extremely stressful. There's so much, no longer do we typically have 9 to 5 jobs. A lot of times we have to just work as many hours as we have to. So that can be stressful. Politics can be stressful. Lots of things can be stressful. And here, you have entertaining books, and you have books that sort of go across, like you're saying, across gender, across race, across everything. And so I think that that's a really great quality for any book, but it particularly seems wonderful for something humorous in a time of, where things can be pretty stressful. Do you think that some people are looking for an escape when they're looking to read chick lit in general?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, whether it's like a sappy Danielle Steele book, or a book that has Fabio with the long hair on a stallion, or it's something like Chin Up Tits Out, where I'm going through my own troubles, and then I'm gonna go pick up a book and read through somebody who I can relate with in one way, shape, or form. Doesn't have to be totally relatable, but there's a connection there, and they're going through something that's ridiculous, and they're still finding positivity out of it. That's pretty interesting, isn't it? And it piques curiosity as to what's going to happen next, and it always ends up turning out a little bit more shocking or a little bit more hilarious. It's kind of like a 50-50 toss up every time you turn the page. And that, I think, is an escape in itself. When we go through something stressful, we always attempt to find an escape. Sometimes if reading isn't a thing, it might be eating, or it might be binge watching TV, or sleeping, or whatever that little tweak is, or whatever that, what we do when we get stressed out. We're always looking for an escape. And trying to find a positive escape is always a challenge, and it's a journey in itself. But once you do, it can lead into life-changing things, essentially, I think.
Definitely. And even with, all the positivity and the fun and the laughs, you do have some serious stuff in there. Like you said, there are twists, there's drama. I know the first book starts with the main character having a panic attack, which I am sure a lot of people can relate to, even if it's not something that they want to talk about. So I think that will give people who suffer things like that an outlet as well, looking at a character in a humorous book, a character that's sort of just, a little bit of all of us who's having something serious like that happen. I also noticed that on your Instagram, for example, maybe it's in other places too, probably Facebook, you recently ran a marathon with your father, and I'm going to draw these comparisons in a moment, which looked like an absolutely wonderful event. And I noticed that one of the things in one of those posts talking about that nice event that you had was something about PTSD and wanting to have an open forum for mental health. So I couldn't
Mhm.
help but think that those two things, with the panic attack in the first book, and maybe there's more as well, and you discussing that on Instagram, were connected.
Oh, 100% connected. You caught me there. um, well, okay. So, and I'm so glad you brought this up because I actually want to speak to my prologues. If you've read my books, you will notice that the prologue starts with the main character Hadley having a panic attack prior to going out on her first date, and then the chapter one reverts back to her being single and young, and then meeting this man from overseas and falling head over heels in love. And then book two is the actual date that Hadley's having a panic attack on, the prologue two. But then book two is continuing on Hadley's story with her partner now. So the prologues haven't connected yet, but they're connecting you to book three. So it's like a Star Wars thing, right? So where the end is at the beginning. Anyways, I thought it was a genius idea. And I was talking to a stranger about my books, and he caught on. It was a he too. And he was like, it's like Star Wars. I'm like, oh my God, can I just bundle you up, take you home? And could you tell everybody that forever? Like, that's all you need to do is just say that the prologues are like Star Wars, because it connects you all to book three. So essentially, it's getting you prepped, going, well, why in the heck is Hadley going through these weird panic attacks prior to her first date and then on her first date, but there's no first ever date in the books themselves? It's because that happens in book three when, her life changes dramatically. And those panic attacks were definitely PTSD panic attacks. Just so book one, you get a dabble in it. Book two, you get the reason why it happens, or I guess what the traumatic stress was that the disorder came from, right? And book three is how she got through it, how she went from having a panic attack on her first date to whatever she's going to get up to. Oh, that was a sneaky end there.
That's excellent. And I've heard, I think you're the third author within just a few weeks that I've heard talk about either mental illness or physical illness, anything along those lines, major issues in the world today being an important thing to put in
Yep.
books. And it's probably so that we can all relate and nobody feels left out. But these are also real characters, not just characters with perfect lives who end up somehow in this situation, which can sometimes happen in some of the chick lit that I've read, at least that's been traditionally published. That can be frustrating when you find a perfect character. Everyone's perfect. Everything's perfect. It ends perfect.
Yeah.
So it's great to hear that. Have you read other romantic comedy type books that have that sort of thing, any kind of mental illness or anything? Or are you kind of doing something new just on your own?
I'm trying to, I don't want to reinvent the wheel because the wheel works perfectly fine. When right, like I must admit, I'm not an avid reader myself. I wish I read more. I have a list. I do read, but just not as much as I would like to. And I like reading comedy because at the end of the day, after staring at a computer or projecting, I'm a corporate trainer in my real world, so I project and I train people in classroom environments around Canada, and so you do that, you travel, you this, you that. I don't want to read about somebody's family being uprooted in this, and like I've lived through that. I know my not my neighbors, but my neighbors, you know. So it's, you know, there's, I don't know all the stories. And will I be in a place in my life in the next chapter to read books like that? For sure. I used to love it, but right now there's just so much positivity going on that I choose comedy as often as I can. And I do think that it helps when I write, because then the things that actually made me literally laugh out loud, which always happens, and I'm on a plane or I'm in like a really intimate setting by myself, and I'm like, excuse me, sorry.
Of
Like,
course.
I'm like, I'm highlighting that. I'm like, why did it make me laugh so much? And why did it make me actually project my voice out loud? So, you know, I want us to have that, us as being human beings, I want us to have the opportunity and the ability to be able to always find a positive, no matter how negative the situation is. And if we can laugh, if we can find something to just laugh about, if you laugh, it releases endorphins. And if it releases endorphins, we're naturally happier.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And since we hit on the third book before, and because it's super special, I want to make sure that we get that in now. So tell us, what is so special about the third book? I'm excited for everyone to know.
Oh, well, it is the final book of the series. And I think this is going to be the most real, honest story that Hadley can put out there. Hadley, myself, we're a duo in this book, I'm finding. Literally, like, we talk to each other when I write. It's pretty not okay. I should probably talk to somebody about that. um, and you know, and the reason why is because the first two books, Hadley had a story with somebody in it the whole time. She was always chasing after something with somebody beside her, fighting for something with them beside there. It was never just Hadley, solo Hadley. From the time that we met her in book one, when she was about 18, to the time book three started, when she was 23, 24, something along the lines of that. And then at that point, as I'm sure that women of all ages can relate, that if you are constantly in a back-to-back relationship sense, or stream, that at one point or another, a thought is going to cross your mind. That's all I'm saying, is that a thought is going to cross your mind going, what would it be like if I did all of this alone? Would it make me feel better? Would it make me feel worse? Do you think I could do it? I don't know if I can do it. Do you think it's possible to do it? You know, that thought always crosses our minds if we don't have an opportunity to actually accomplish and grow and figure out who we are in a solo individual chapter in our lives. Not everybody needs one. Not everybody has the opportunity to get one. And that's okay. If you're happy, then that's all that matters, is however you make yourself happy. But this book specifically speaks to how Hadley has absolutely no choice but to not only work her way up from the ground up, but from the big old hole that she was left in. um, and I think that men and women in today's day and age, we have to look at the facts here. Divorce rate is astronomical. You know, the average length of a relationship in Canada is like 8 years. So all of you, those people that have 8 years longer, like, self high five, hug yourselves, tell your partner that you love them every single day. Like, keep on, because you're not the average anymore. You're above average at 9 years. So don't give up now. um but right, like, you have to look at all the other people that are going through the inevitable, the average, that, you know, 50 or whatever the stats are. I don't know what they are, but I know they're ridiculous. So it really gives me an opportunity to connect with anybody and everybody who is having to move through a transition solely. We're going to go with it.
Going with it. That's great. Yeah, that sounds like an exciting book, and it sounds like the second book might end on a little bit of a cliffhanger. Is that
Yo,
true?
oh, people have gotten so mad at the end of my book too, like, so mad. Like, I had one woman storm up to me at a book signing going, I am so mad. And I was like, oh my God, I'm sorry. What did I do? Like, what did I do? And she's like, oh, I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at the book. And I'm like, okay, girl, you need to clarify that when you come storming up to a random woman in a bookstore. Just saying. You
That's a
know,
great story.
like, what did I do? So yeah, the second book is on a cliffhanger. So people have been reaching out and they've been a pain in my backside, but it's also like a little fire that gets lit under my backside, and it makes me write, and it makes me so excited when I write because I am enjoying writing and laughing, like crying, laughing. So worst case scenario, we'll get a chuckle or two. We're going.
Well, absolutely, I think. And I'm
I mean,
glad that now everyone is going to know that the third book is coming out.
yes, third book is coming out, and I swear, like, I think I'm probably way funnier in my own mind than I really am. So it'll for sure it'll be good. It'll be a knee slapper at least.
That's great. We have a lot to look forward to. Thank you so much for being on the show, Miranda. Tell everyone where they can find you after the broadcast.
I will for sure, and I'll send it out all on my links.
Fantastic. So thank you so much for joining us on the Creative Edge Writers Showcase. This has been a copyrighted podcast owned by the authors on the Air Global Radio Network and Creative Edge Marketing. We'll be back on July 19th at 9 p.m. Eastern with Edward Willett, and he is the author of adult, young adult, and children's books, both fiction and nonfiction, spanning quite a range of books. So in the meantime, you can look up our show on Facebook for updates, and we'll see you in our next episode.